with Dr. Anna Cabeca, and she has been on my YouTube channel. I have been on her podcast. I've had the honor of being on Couch Talk with her a couple of times, actually. So I feel like we're old friends by now, and I just absolutely love your work, Dr. Cabeca. And today we're going to be talking about the keto green diet for healthy hormones. Because I think pretty much everyone who watches my YouTube channel and listens to my podcast is kind of wondering about that. So we're going to talk about some common perceptions about the keto diet and how we can eat for healthy hormones no matter what diet we're choosing. Does that sound good to you today, Anna?
It is my favorite topic, Brianna, and anything that you want to talk about, I'm here to talk about with you because we always get into some side tangents. So I'm excited.
I know, me too. And, instead of taking the time to go too in-depth into your bio, I'm just going to tell folks that, first of all, Anna's amazing. And she actually recently won a Mindshare Innovator of the Year award. That was pretty amazing. What was that all about? Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, for creating Jolva, an innovative solution for women that where none existed. So it's definitely been a popular topic and well received, and just creating solutions for women where none existed, so that we are empowered. We are empowered beyond beyond what we expect. I think one of my big concerns is how many of us have given our power of our own body to others, to physicians, to insurance companies, to pharmaceutical companies, to media, versus listening to what is truth for us, what is real for us, and really discerning what works and what doesn't work.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely. And I will say that your products, they are innovative. I want to get into the topic, but I briefly want to just say that I love how your products, your Jolva cream, which I recommend to so many women, which helps tone the tissues and can help with vaginal dryness. I have a whole interview with you about that on my YouTube channel, but also even just with connective tissue health in the vulvar area. A lot of women with incontinence issues and prolapse issues say that it's helped relieve their symptoms. So that's really innovative and something that people are not really addressing. So yeah, I love that.
And thank you. And it's so critically important. And it really stems from my years as a gynecologist and trying to find innovative solutions for me and my patients as well, because what's available is not necessarily satisfactory, not necessarily for the long haul. So a little bit that we can do regularly for the long haul is critical. And as you and I know, the most valuable piece of real estate on our body, I'm telling you, clitoris to anus. Okay, maybe the mind, maybe, whatever. Clitoris to anus, that is quality of life determining stuff. Incontinence puts us in nursing homes,
yes,
right? And rectal incontinence, fissures, hemorrhoids. It just shuts us down in so many ways, and not to mention pain, discomfort, embarrassment. So I think this is it's definitely a critical area. So the most important real estate of our bodies.
Yes, it is. I love that. Well,
we're biased, but that's okay.
Well, today I want to talk about, again, getting into the keto green diet. This is something I'm really interested in myself. I absolutely love your book, The Hormone Fix. And as you can see, it's been dog-eared and it's got bookmarks. And you speak to the keto green diet in this book, but you have you're releasing a new book as well, and it's specifically about the keto green diet. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, that's Keto Green 16. It's out May 5th, and Kindle, Audible, and anywhere books are sold. So you can get it pretty much anywhere. Keto Green 16. So it's a bit of a spin-off from the Hormone Fix, and the Hormone Fix is definitely the comprehensive book. And it takes more than hormones to fix our hormones. And one step is not just we put so much emphasis on diet. So with the Keto Green 16 is a 16-day diet with 16-hour intermittent fasting. And I work through these nuances, and the beautiful number 16, right? It's such a great number. But I work through that it's not just about what we eat, it's how we live that affects us. And so teasing that into a really effective plan that we can take into our workplaces, into our clubs, into our book clubs, into our Bible studies, into our home groups, and we can do this as a community. So I've written it so that we can do it on our own or do it as a group. And so that's a fun
Oh,
thing.
that's so exciting. I actually didn't realize that the 16 had to do with intermittent fasting, which is a very personally interesting topic. So I have two perceptions that I'd like to maybe bust about keto. And I also want to ask you about intermittent fasting and kind of with the overall idea of just why is this a healthy for hormones diet? So that's the overall kind of topic I want to talk about today. But the first perception that I'd like to kind of potentially bust, or maybe it's a myth, is that when you're doing a keto diet, you can only eat fat. Is that true?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So beyond, like, the keto concept is the bacon and butter, right? And that just gives you the image of this very high fat, very low quality, really source of energy. Now, it definitely is a source of energy, but it's not the best. We really need healthy fats, and fats are so critical. All our hormones are derived from fat. So we need the precursor to our hormones, and that is cholesterol. We need healthy fat. And there are good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, a whole range of topics there. But when we need cholesterol to produce progesterone, pregnenolone, so we need healthy fats. And me, I'm in my 50s. I'm in my 50s with a soon to be 12-year-old. So it is like, you got to keep yourself healthy. But those of us that are in this age range really know the low fat movement of the 80s, 90s. I mean, really busted our hormones. And I think we're still kind of recuperating from that. And so many of us are afraid of fat. So I really dispel that fear and improve healthy fats. But it's fat, protein, and fiber. So the fiber being the greens. And when we have healthy fat and fiber specifically, not to mention good quality, clean sources of protein, we reduce our cravings. We know, we have improved willpower. We have clearer energy. And then we're also shift, which is really critical, Brianne. And if I didn't experience this myself, I wouldn't know this. But our brain, as our hormones shift, as we enter this perimenopause, I'm saying 35 to 55, this period of neuroendocrine vulnerability, where we get all those gynecologic complaints like the irregular periods, the breakthrough bleeding, but we also get the neuroendocrine complaints, the anxiety, the moodiness, the irritability, the difficulty sleeping, and these symptoms end up, when you go to your doctor, you end up on Prozac, sleeping pills, and eventually, because of bladder stims, et cetera, anticholinergics. Each and every one of those medications increase our risk of Alzheimer's and dementia exponentially.
Oh.
So we have to recognize the medication. We are medicating, creating increased consequences, and never getting to the root of the problem. The root of the problem, and this is what I didn't know going through my own and being a menopause and hormone expert, right? Until I hit age 48, my second menopause. So we talk about that more in this book, Keto Green 16. But when I hit the second menopause, had the brain fog, the cloudy thinking, was really irritable. And I was raising teenagers and a young child in elementary school. I actually had 3 kids in 3 different schools, one in elementary, one in middle, and one in high school. And, and I was losing it, so to speak. I didn't like who I was becoming or how I was reacting and not responding. And so it is a fuel source. So we think, okay, progesterone, estrogen, DHEA, testosterone, yeah, they're all very important. But what happens is, as our hormones decline, especially progesterone and estrogen, that our body's ability to use glucose for fuel in the brain, which is its preferential source, it's quick and available, and we can always use it. That decreases because the body's ability to use glucose for fuel in the brain is a estrogen-dependent process. So gluconeogenesis in the brain is an estrogen-dependent process. And if we don't have the progesterone, which is dropping from age 35 on, right? If we don't have that precursor hormone to estrogen, and we're stressed out, which is going to deplete our estrogen because we're making cortisol, then our brains are actually starving, and we're eating, and then we're craving the quick sources. We're craving more and more glucose, right? And yet our metabolism is shifting from changes in other hormones at the same time. So it is the perfect storm. So that brain fog, that sleeplessness, that anxiety, that poor decision making, all of that is coming because we have, our physiology shifts. That wise woman time of our life that we should be emerging into comes from comes from those times of extended periods of fasting, extended periods of, we're deferring the glucose. We're eating the necessary long-lasting energy from fats and proteins. So those are really critical shifts. So glucose is to gasoline. If we think of how we use fuel in the brain, think of glucose to gasoline, but ketones are comparable to jet fuel for the brain. So when we start using ketones from the breaking down of fat for fuel, because glucose isn't available, right? So we got to eliminate glucose, especially in this perimenopause, postmenopause time period. We eliminate the available glucose. We stay with that low carbohydrate and shift to using ketones for fuel from the food we're eating and from our own body's fat stores. Like I want to use all my fat stores as much as possible, right? And so that creates this brain clarity, and I called it energized enlightenment. We get this increased clarity, this increased insight, this increased wisdom. And as I experienced that, not only did I drop like the extra weight that had been piling on without doing anything different. I mean, that's such an important point. The patients would come into me all the time in this perimenopausal stage and say, Dr. Anna, I'm gaining 5, 10, 20 pounds and I'm not doing anything different, right? But in fact, I was like, oh, surely you're doing something different. You're driving through an extra meal. You're more sedentary, blah, 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 right? Then it happened to me, and legitimately, I was not doing anything different. Now I understand that now, and I write about that in both the Hormone Fix and Keto Green 16. But that's a critical time period that we as women need to recognize so that it's a physiologic change. So what we just have to do is shift our fuel source. We have to shift our fuel source and manage our stress. And then we experience this clarity. We drop the extra weight. We experience this clarity, this energized enlightenment, and we can make better decisions for ourselves and our families and the relationships that we love. For me, it was going from a time of really terrible relationships with 2 of my teenage daughters, near bankruptcy from, hurricanes and divorce and all this stuff, to like reinventing myself, recreating myself, and also making good decisions for my family, my business, and for everyone that I love, so that I'm now in the best relationships I have. I've been able to write 2 books in 2 years. And, my business, of course, thank you, is just doing really, really well, serving many, many hundreds of thousands of women around the world. So.
Wow. Oh, this is so good. This is so juicy. And basically, I think you in that addressed the second perception. So to recap, the first perception or myth was that you can only eat fat with a keto diet, but you said, no, we're going for that beautiful trifecta that I always talk about as well, of protein, healthy fats, and fiber. I think the difference from what I usually talk about and I think the non-keto approach is I was speaking more about fiber from fruits and vegetables, but also from like gluten-free grains or things like that. But that would be out in the keto diet, correct?
That would be out with the Keto Green approach, because we want those low carbohydrate grains. Think kale, collards, beet greens, all your cruciferous vegetables, because those are important for healthy estrogen detoxification. And so in Keto Green 16, I really emphasize 16 food groups too, like 16 key food ingredients to make the menus easy, to make the choices easy, but your low carbohydrate greens and, the healthy fats like avocado, olive oil, nuts, and seeds. So those are okay. But grain, in my Keto Green, there's no dairy, there's no gluten, there's no grains, because I do have a 16-day vegan plan now also in Keto Green 16. So there are definitely some grains in that, beans, legumes, really, in that plan. So I did incorporate that for the protein sourcing. And it makes a difference. But the key with the carbohydrate intake that we're getting has to come from these low carbohydrate greens.
Interesting. That's wonderful. I figured that's what it was, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, I think within that explanation there, you really addressed the second myth or perception, which is that keto diets can't be good for women. They're problematic for female hormones. But it sounds to me, tell me if I'm summing this up right, that like you said, we're just simply shifting our fuel source to kind of work with what we need to do anyway as we get older.
Yes, absolutely. And I would say it's essential. And there's Keto Dirty and there's Keto Clean, which is Keto Green,
Okay.
right? There's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way because we need the minerals and we need to test, not gas, right? We need to check our urine pH because that also is not just a measure of our nutrient status, it's a measure of our stress level. So urine pH tells us a lot of cool stuff. And it's definitely, I would argue that it is essential for women perimenopausal and beyond, and intermittent, like we do feasting and fasting. so they maintain that metabolic flexibility. Yeah.
Okay, so then is there certain periods of time when you could say have a plate of gluten-free pasta? Like is that what you mean? You kind of cycle in and out of this keto green approach?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like, having a day like where you're having your sweet potatoes and your squashes and your pea soups. I mean, all these great things, I mean, chocolate's part of my plan. Okay. So it
I
had
can't
to be.
live
I will not refuse.
without
I'm with you. I'm with you, Bree. That's so true.
that. Okay, that's really great. So those are my main two myths here is that you can only eat fat and that it's not good for women. But let me just pop in about the intermittent fasting, which I've also heard is something that may not be so good for women. Tell me a little bit about intermittent fasting. It's something that I've really struggled with. I really felt resistance to it. And when I finally tried it, I felt amazing. So I'd like to
Uh,
hear more about
yes. I'll tell you a couple reasons why too. And again, I would say it's essential. The research alone in JAMA in 2017, a July article, published how if women had at least 13 hours between dinner and breakfast, they had a significantly reduced risk of recurrent breast cancer. So we know that for, breast health and breast prevention, I would just extrapolate to for cancer, decrease the risk of cancer, intermittent fasting is absolutely necessary, especially if we've dealt with breast cancer, any type of autoimmune disease. We need the time to rest and digest. I want to really make this point by saying everyone listening has at some point been told to get fasting lab work, right? You told, okay, 12 hours after you eat, we'll get your labs, right? And so they go in fasting lab just with water in the morning to get that baseline. And the reason 12 hours, because it takes at least 12 hours to get that blood glucose down to baseline.
that. Okay.
12 hours, not 4, not 6, 12 hours to really get some baseline levels. And so I find that that's really fascinating to me. And like we've known that as physicians, I've always said, okay, yeah, 12 hours after you eat, let's get your labs. Well, why? Because cholesterol, because this, because that. But really why? Because that's giving us, and I would argue that it's probably more like 13, 14. And something I monitor regularly is my blood sugar. And you look at certain times, how insulin resistant, the more insulin resistant we are, the longer it's going to take to get to that fasting, that really good baseline level. And that's critical. That's where we're hitting this, critical shifts in our lives. Now, where I found most women do really well with intermittent fasting, but if we break fast by 10 a.m., if we break fast, like I think it's 1 p.m. now, and I'm breaking fast with a keto green smoothie because I have our team. I've hired a trainer to come to my office twice a week, and every team member participates in exercise from 12 to 1. So breaking my fast after the workout instead of before. So that's been a fun thing. So a little shift there. But again, metabolic flexibility is good. But I find for cognitive health, for hormone production, that if we're eating earlier, eating like by 6, 7 p.m., that's critical. Eat dinner earlier and break fast at, 10 a.m. That really works well for women. And again, we build up to it. Start with, if we finish at 7, break fast at 7, that's 12 hours. Then work to 13 hours, then work to 14 hours, work to 15 hours. And then for this 16 days, let's do it for 16 hours, plus the other tidbits and modifications that we do in the plan that really will make a big difference.
Okay, I do have to ask about coffee. It's my last big question for you. So with coffee, when you're
I
breaking
think we have the same addictions, Brianne.
I do enjoy my chocolate, my moon chocolate that I make. It's homemade and it's very low sugar and it's delightful. But I think it potentially work on the keto green plan. But my coffee, I do a blend of this adaptogenic herbal brew called Rasa, as well as a little bit of my husband's regular coffee. But I do like to have a splash of non-dairy creamer in it, etc. That's going to break my fast, isn't it?
That's going to break your fast.
Huh?
The non-dairy creamer is really going to break your fast.
Yeah.
Coffee, just black coffee, you're fine, but recognize what it does for you. Because since I've been monitoring, and I talk about this in the book, 24-hour monitoring with something called a Freestyle Libre, a blood sugar monitor that goes in your arm. I can actually show you who's watching, but it is just this little device. It lasts for 2 weeks, and you just scan your smart reader from your phone. This is on an Android. It's on the front for a and you can see what your blood sugar is. So that is 89 right now, post-workout, a little bump with workout. You can see the little bump with the workout, but sometimes it's a lot higher bump with the workout. So that's interesting to see how that shifts. But with coffee in the morning, when I drink my black coffee in the morning, it's one of the things I first noticed, my blood sugar would go up 20 to 30 points. And I connected the dots because in my Magic Menopause program that we have going on, I had a challenge with a woman who could not stop her coffee. I'm like, I'm going to stop it. You stop it. I'm like, it's hard for me. I've fasted from coffee, but we'll do it together. And that week I lost 4 pounds. So if caffeine is stressing your adrenals, then we need to recognize that, no matter what, that's affecting our body adversely. And so it's something to look at. If we're hitting that weight loss resistance, and I'm like, okay, I need to go caffeine free again for a while, I think. But especially in times of stress, that kind of builds up. And then we're bumping up our blood sugar, even though we're fasting, we're not providing any calories, nutrients, fat, anything like that. Now you can, with your black coffee, add like MCT oil or coconut oil to add in some creaminess to it, blend that up, or ghee, like some purified butter. And that's, again, it's all fat in coffee. So technically you may not see a peak in blood sugar, and it also will contribute to ketosis versus inhibit ketosis and help with willpower. It will help because those fats are satiating and, help stave off hunger. So there's a couple ways to do that in kind of substituting out your non-dairy creamer. But again, there's you ebb and flow. Like, okay, well, sometimes you fast from it and sometimes you include it. So treating yourself to things you love when you're healthy and doing great, that's perfect.
Yeah. I love that really feminine system you have here. It is it's a very feminine flowing system where it's not, there's definitely guidelines and rules, if you will. I have air quotes going right now, but it sounds like there's also some flexibility and freedom within it, which I really appreciate.
Well, and that, deciding what works for me, what doesn't work for me, what's serving my body, what's not serving my body, right? And I think this is where, as women, we're very intuitive. So again, reclaiming our power over what we know is helping us or hurting us.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it at that. I'm very excited to try the Keto Green 16. Is there anything you'd like to leave folks with about how, I don't know, the diet plan or the keto plan or anything that you'd like?
Yeah, I definitely would say, no matter what you've tried or what plan you've tried or how many diets you've failed on, I encourage you to try Keto Green 16. And we have a beautiful Keto Green community that will support you through the program, and I'll be doing some live calls as well. So definitely join me, come to my website at dranna.com and check that out, and check out the book and the resources that we're providing as bonuses with the book. But also, don't give up on yourself. And really excited to see the progress and the results that we get with Keto Green 16.
Awesome. Well, I'll put some links to all the information people would need in the notes. So definitely check that out. And thank you so much, Anna, for your time and for just these amazing products and books that you put out into the world. I think it's really, really helpful stuff for women.
Thank you, Bree. Likewise.
All
Love
right.
you.
Love you too. Bye.